Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we are looking at the Niners 23-20 victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 10 of the NFL season. And it was a game that it felt like we had seen over and over and over again. There was tempers flaring on the sideline. It was another game that came down to the final possessions for the Buccaneers and 49ers. It was ugly. It was gritty. It was grimy. And overall, although San Francisco won this game 23-20, got above 500, now 5-4, there just seems to be this dark cloud hovering over the San Francisco 49ers this year in 2024. When I kindly ask you to like, share, and subscribe, and let's dive into the San Francisco 49ers Week 10 victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There are some impressive things about this victory. The Niners under Kyle Shanahan are now 44-18 after the bye week. They were 25-37 before the bye week, now 44-18. Really impressive. This team turns things up in the months of November and December. Brock Purdy is also now 3-0 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, dating back to his rookie season. And now in this one, he's also thrown 7 touchdowns and no interceptions in those 3 games against the Buccaneers. You could say, honestly, now through 3 games, that Brock Purdy owns a Todd Bowles defense, but that's kind of where you have to you can't just ignore what happened in this game and say, well, they won. A win's a win. That's all that matters. Well, technically, that's true. The San Francisco 49ers won this game. They're now 5-4. And if the Rams lose tomorrow night, they are going to be in second place in the NFC West. There will be an improvement with the win against the Buccaneers, but you can't just say, oh, well, a win's a win and move on. This game was torture. It was, again, disgusting and ugly, and there were so many things that went wrong in this game that were controllable for the San Francisco 49ers, and that unfortunately has been a common factor during this season. If I asked you, name me their premier win, name me the win you point to and say that's what makes this team a great team, a good team, maybe it's that Seahawks game, and it certainly isn't this one. We previewed this game earlier in the week, and we talked about how the Buccaneers didn't have Mike Evans and didn't have Chris Godwin. They lost Christian Wirfs during this game. Tyke Smith, their nickelback, got ruled out before the game because he got hurt in practice on Friday. There were so many things leaning in San Francisco's favor, and that's just health-wise. We haven't even mentioned the fact the Buccaneers had lost 3 games in a row, and they went into overtime on Monday of last week against the Kansas City Chiefs and lost that game. Niners also had the bye week off. They could have self-scouted. They got healthy, and they had Christian McCaffrey back, and it felt like nothing had changed in that time. And I'm not exactly sure what is wrong with the San Francisco 49ers this year, but I can tell you this. Despite them winning, there is a lot more wrong than there is right with the San Francisco 49ers. But I do want to discuss negatives for sure. They were definitely there today. A lot of them stem from the special teams issues that we've seen all year. They again reared their ugly head multiple times, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times in this game for the San Francisco 49ers. But let's start at the top with the quarterback, Brock Purdy. The box score will tell you that Brock Purdy was excellent in this game. The analytics may tell you he was excellent in this game. A 69% completion percentage, 353 passing yards, almost 10 yards an attempt, 2 touchdowns, and a rating of 119.3. That is incredible in regards to reading box scores. If you didn't watch this game and you told me the box score, I would say San Francisco won by 2 touchdowns, if not 3. That, to me, is an indication that the box score is lying to you in regards to how this game played itself out. And we'll dive into a lot more of that later on in the show. But I thought Brock Purdy today, well, there were so many good things. When you almost throw for 360 yards and 2 touchdowns, those are great things, right? No one's discounting what Brock Purdy did, but There was clearly something off in the game against the Dallas Cowboys early. They turned things up late in the second half and figured things out, and they won that game by should have been a larger chunk. But in this one, Brock was missing high and behind and low. He was inaccurate on a lot of his throws early in this one, especially. He was throwing behind guys, and there was a lot of footballs that if on a normal day, which this was by far nowhere near a normal day in the NFL, a lot of the balls that Brock Purdy threw today would have been interceptions. Now, that isn't to say they were turnover-worthy plays, but Brock is known to take risks, and some throws near the sideline today were late or they were too high and behind. They lingered in the air a little too long in the NFL, and you're almost waiting. You're banking on, you're like, oh, like, don't, because you know what's going to happen. The opposing defender is going to jump in front of the football, intercept it, and you're like, what do we do now? Right? That was a lot of the feeling I was getting early in this game from Brock Purdy. Didn't see wide open Deebo Samuels and Kyle Juszczyk for touchdowns in this game. A lot left on the field. It's kind of the simple way to put it out there for Brock Purdy, which is not a common phrase often used by myself or others when discussing him. Usually Brock Purdy is efficient, which in this game, when you complete 25 of your 33 passes, you have a 69% completion percentage, you have 2 touchdowns. Like, Brock, in a way, was efficient and good, and I guess a win's a win, Lori. I totally understand, but, there's sometimes you win a game and you go, whew, we escaped. But sometimes you lose a game. Like, rather win ugly than lose pretty, right? Like, at San Francisco, put up 45 points and lost 45-48. You're like, who cares? You lost the game. What couldn't you do to pick up the pieces? That's true. But this game and the way they played this year and the way Brock Purdy played today, there was so much meat left on the bone for them, especially in that first half. That first half, they should have had 21 points easily in that first half. We shouldn't even be talking about 23-20, and we haven't even discussed special teams yet. Like, there was so much meat left on the bone for Brock Purdy in this game. Didn't see a blitzer once in this game. He almost fumbled, or he did fumble actually, trying to scramble. And within that conversation of Brock Purdy, while there was so much meat left on the bone, there was also so many things he did that you're like, oh my God. His touchdown throw to George Kittle today was fantastic. He's buying time in the pocket, running to his right, running to his left, then scrambling to his left, resetting his feet and floating arguably one of the prettiest balls we've seen him throw ever in the back of the end zone for a toe tap touchdown by George Kittle. That is gorgeous football on behalf of Brock Purdy. The back foot loft throw to Christian McCaffrey for 30 yards downfield, knowing there's no safety back there, saying, I got to give my guy a chance, my reigning offensive player of the year a chance. That is what you call chemistry. That's what you call trusting your guys to do their job. That was Brock Purdy for portions of this game, but again, still some meat left on that bone. Even the literal jump throw to Deebo Samuel over the middle of the field for 32 yards where he breaks a tackle and cuts back upfield, that is an impressive throw. Brock, one thing I've been noticing with the Niners offense, and it's not just Purdy related, it's the offense as a whole, is that you'll have one of these amazing plays here or there. Say it's a Jordan Mason run for 25 yards or 19 yards, and you feel, okay, now's where they get picked up, right? Or it's a George Kittle big 33-yard gain. Like, okay, here's momentum. They can never seem to stack plays. We always talk about stacking wins or stacking days, right? They haven't stacked plays thus far this year, where Purdy may have an amazing play for 33 yards to Deebo Samuel or 30 to Christian McCaffrey, but the next play is a run for 1 yard, an incomplete pass, and then it's a punt. And you're like, well, what the heck? Like, all that good grace you did and all those good things you did go for naught, simply because you don't continue to execute after what's been a great play by McCaffrey or Brock Purdy. That, I think, has been a continual problem for this offense, is that they're not stacking plays. And look, that's very hard to do. It's not easy. But with today as the example, in that first half especially, with Brock being so off, and even late in the game when he's completing passes to Juwan Jennings towards the sideline or Ricky Pearsall, there's still plays where Juwan's having to jump and kind of lean back for the football. That's what gets guys hurt, for one, but also that's what also commits turnovers and takeaways. That's what costs you games. Now, thankfully, Brock, I think, did a great job managing today. One of the issues we talked about couple weeks ago was the turnovers were becoming a more consistent thing for Brock Purdy, trying to do too much. And I think today he was, which one person I think was on Twitter said that he was a check down merchant today. I'd push back on that, but also I would say, who cares? I don't care Brock Purdy was a check down merchant. I don't care at all. You want to know why? That's why Christian McCaffrey's here. That is the exact reason why, amongst many others, you acquired Christian McCaffrey. This is a game where, in Brock's case, well, today shouldn't have been, like, the Niners realistically should have won this game 29-20. Okay, a 9-point win, you feel okay, it's 2 scores, not that bad. I want to say hi to Papa J here for a second, and also Keys in the comments. Going on, guys. I'll get to your comments very, very soon. But this game should have been a 2-score game throughout the entirety of it for the most part. But you acquire Christian McCaffrey to be the check down safety option for Brock Purdy. And with the turnovers against the Chiefs and the Cardinals kind of lingering or kind of peeking up their head saying, hey, how's it going? Don't forget about me. This game was much different. Brock, I think, despite having some scary throws, did a great job tucking the football, checking it down, not forcing things. Brock, while making some scary throws here or there, he didn't force anything. That is the one credit I want to give him amongst many, but he didn't force stuff today. He was a really efficient game manager, but also had a few drives. You're like, that's a playmaker. That's a quarterback. You're like, hell yes, brother. Sign me up for the next 6 years of that, right? Brock today played winnable football. Brock played, when it's 1st and 10 and it's an incomplete pass, crap, now it's 2nd and long, take that check down. CMC was getting you like 5-6 yards a pop, not just on the ground, but also through the air. That's okay. Give you a 3rd and 4, give you a 3rd and 3, make your life easier. That's why Christian McCaffrey is there. And you also saw CMC when he was lined out wide, opening up things for Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall and George Kittle. Overall, the offense, was the offense terrible today? No, it wasn't. The offense actually was really good, but what's plagued them is the red zone stuff. And unfortunately, we continue to talk about the same things over and over and over again to a point where, like, it's nauseating, it's annoying, because it's like, if we know it, now we don't always know how to fix it. And the hope was once CMC returns that, well, they'll score at ease. They'll fix the red zone problems. And I think looking at this game before it actually transpired today, Christian McCaffrey's back, Juwan Jennings is back, the Bucs, they're tired, they're exhausted, a short week for them. Their defense is not good. Now they don't have their top nickel back. Like, you're sitting back saying, okay, this is a game where San Francisco should be able to execute at a very high level, and they just still can't find a way to continually put together drives and finish off plays. And that's really frustrating for, I'm sure, myself, and I'm sure you as well. I do want to discuss Christian McCaffrey for a second, but I do also want to mention that Brock Purdy today was excellent against the blitz. The Buccaneers had not been blitzing as much in recent weeks, and Brock Purdy today, while the Bucs got him one time on a blitz with no one blocking him, I think it was Grendo in pass protection, kind of chipped the guy, then he just got free behind him. But other than that, Brock was really great today. Had multiple 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8 completions to extend drives. I thought Brock, although it wasn't his best today, did continue to fight and didn't turn the ball over and made some plays late to essentially push San Francisco to victory, and really did enough, despite how the game transpired at the end, that this game should have never got to that point, and we shouldn't even be talking about, well, Jake Moody and the altercation on the sideline and whatnot. We should be talking about, wow, they won by 9+ points, and we're feeling pretty good about it. But in regards to Christian McCaffrey, because a lot of what today was kind of an assessment as to where Christian McCaffrey is. And a lot of you out there were wondering, how much is he going to play? And I was honestly surprised he got 19 touches today. I was a little shocked we didn't see a little more from Jordan Mason today. I think Isaac Guerrero had more rushes in the red zone than Jordan Mason. That shocked me. Now, maybe it was the shoulder injury and whatnot. Maybe it was how the game was going. Shanahan didn't think Mason made sense in that situation, but I don't know. But I was very shocked that Jordan Mason didn't get more run in this game. But I thought Christian McCaffrey looked pretty good for a first game, right? There's going to be some rust, but on like his first couple plays, it was like 5 easy yards. Everything looked, it was like a hot knife going through butter. Now, there wasn't the explosive plays for the most part on the ground, but I thought CMC looked really good in this game. There was certainly some rust. It's his first game ever this season, so that's to be expected, hence why we all thought they'll ease him into stuff, but no. He was the lead back. They didn't run the football as much in this game, which I was shocked about. The Buccaneers actually outran the Niners in this game by a large margin, whether it was attempts or total yards. The Niners passed the football a ton in this game compared to what the Bucs did. But back to CMC, I was pleased with what he did. I loved what he was doing out there. Again, it wasn't perfect, but as Laurie Matthews says here, CMC needs to get his sea legs back. Juwan Jennings has been out. I expect to see a more organized offense against the Seahawks next week. Get another win next week and move on. Special teams, another story, which you're right, Laurie, you really are right. But in regards to CMC, I thought he was good. I really was pleased with what a first day of the job essentially it was for him. 19 total touches, 107 yards. That's instant impact. That's how you win football games. And he was impactful in 2 different areas, on the ground and through the air. Now, the more he gets kind of in the flow of things, you're hoping to get back, the OPOY Christian McCaffrey. But for a first day back on the job, my goodness, while there was some rust, he was hitting holes better than Mason does. And look, you can just tell, even when Christian McCaffrey is rusty or isn't up to speed just yet, it just looks so much prettier. There was a play in this game. I believe it was a pass to Christian McCaffrey towards the right sideline, where it was like an instant stop, dead on, and the guy just jumped by him and he cut back for a first down for 4 more extra yards. But I was like, Mason would fight through that, take the contact on, and likely not get a first down. Whereas Christian McCaffrey is a different kind of player. He's definitely more agile and has some dexterity to him more than Mason does. Mason being the power back, CMC more so being the finesse guy, but also having some power to him. Those jump cuts, those quick cuts, it just makes this offense so much more dangerous. And it has been a facet they've been missing for 8 games so far this year. And I was happy to see it back against the Buccaneers. But it's one game I'm going to assume that the Seattle Seahawks, I really think that what we're going to see is a more unleashed Christian McCaffrey. But I do want to get into some of your comments here in the YouTube chat. Let's see what we got here. Keys says at the top, this has to be one of the most frustrating wins ever. We should have won by 17 plus, but all season long, red zone and special teams do us in. Lucky to win. I can't disagree with the Keys. I thought a lot of luck was involved in this game. We'll get to the defense in a second, but I thought the defense was the MVP of this game. The defense, for as much, I don't know, say criticism or guff or whatever it is, vitriol that was pushed towards Nick Sorensen, his unit has been, while they've had their problems here or there, for the most part in games, outside of maybe 1 or 2 drives in this one, they were phenomenal. And we'll dive into stats and we'll go through each drive in a second, but the defense was phenomenal in this game. And really, they saved San Francisco's offense a lot in this one. What else do we have here on the YouTube chat? Papa J going back to checkdowns of Christian McCaffrey. If checkdowns is what makes progress and wins the game, then that would be adjusting to the defense, right? Not exactly. It's more so of just you have a safety net that most teams don't. Like the Lions have Gibbs and Montgomery. Trying to think. The Vikings had Aaron Jones. He got hurt today. The Commanders have Austin Eckler, and there's better ones involved in that conversation too. But Christian McCaffrey is by far, when you don't have separators, and this is a big factor in this, and which is why losing Brandon Ayuk when you didn't have Christian McCaffrey was such a big deal. When you don't have people that can separate in man coverage, like Brandon Ayuk could last year, and you're hoping Pearsall can do this year, when Juwan Jennings is getting locked up because he's a bigger body guy, isn't the best route runner, when you have Deebo Samuel, who really can't separate against anybody, and you have George Kittle being double-teamed, that's why you need Christian McCaffrey out there. He allows you to beat man coverage at a more consistent basis when you don't have those separator receivers like an Ayuk was last year, or you're hoping Pearsall can be in the future. So I don't think it's about adjusting to defenses. I think it's really about it opens up the offense and brings something new they haven't had all year long. And also where they've been held back because they don't have those separating receivers, it then allows the Niners offense to not have to be stuck in the mud or Purdy to force plays downfield, which leads to picks, or you're banking on guys going up and making amazing plays to extend drives. Now you essentially have a free 5 or 6 yards every single play with Christian McCaffrey. Papa J says here, would everyone agree that Brock looked below average, but statistically, he did great? I think there's a lot into that conversation. Kind of already talked about it here that yes, in that first half, Brock did look average. Missed throws, inaccuracy, some dangerous throws here or there. A lot of throws that were high pointed, but high and behind people. But stat-wise, he really does look like he was awesome. And I'm not going to come down certain people's roads in the community. That's not what I do. But a lot of people, some of them are very popular, but continue to say that Brock Purdy had a great game. He was awesome. He wasn't, for the most part. But when this team needed him the most, yes, he was awesome. Yes, he was great. Yes, he was clutch. Those two things can be on the docket at the same time. Those two things can be true. That for 65 to 75% of the game, you're average, but in that 25% window, you're incredible. That's what Brock Purdy was today for the San Francisco 49ers. I do want to save your comment about Jake Moody here, Papa J. We'll get to Jake Moody in a little bit because a lot to say about Jake Moody. A lot of bad to say about Jake Moody after this one. But some more good stuff. Again, the Niners were a pass-heavy scheme, which I wasn't expecting with CMC back. Only 18 designed runs today from the San Francisco offense. That is not a Kyle Shanahan style of game plan by any means, and I'm not sure how much that pivoted at all. No one got hurt in this game on offense, but only 18 designed runs doesn't really sound like a Shanahan offense, which is weird because, in games like this, you have to find ways to win, and you have to find ways to win differently, right? And one thing the Niners have had a hard time doing this year is winning differently. When they can't run the football, okay, things go awry. When they don't have Ayuk or Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel, while yes, not having your best players obviously hinders your offense, they've had a hard time winning differently, finding different ways to win. Whereas, look at the Chiefs this year. And I get it. There's luck involved for sure. I understand that. But they're getting, interceptions on pick sixes. They're getting blocked field goals and game-winning field goals. They are literally getting and winning in every which way possible. Should the Chiefs be 9-0? No. On most of their days, they haven't been the best team, but they find ways to win. When the run game's not working, okay, here comes Mahomes. When Mahomes ain't playing well, here comes the running game. When the offense isn't scoring points, here comes the defense to pick them up. And when the defense plays well, but the offense hasn't scored enough points just yet, oh, here comes a blocked game-winning field goal today against the Broncos. They find different ways to win. The Niners have really never found any different way to win this year. As Larry Matthews says, the Chiefs have made a deal with the devil. They may have. The devil's Roger Goodell, but they may have. And yes, the stripes have certainly helped them this year, but the Niners, every game is the same for them. Like, this game looks so eerily similar to almost the other 8 games they played, whether it was the Cowboys game 2 weeks ago where they're up and they blow a lead late almost, or it's the Rams game where special teams cost them a touchdown and they miss a field goal and you're like, what is going on? The Vikings game, all of these games have felt like a big cluster of like, what the hell? Like, what the F is going on? And they're all the same. Like, every game this year has had a very similar story beats to what's going to happen to be the outcome. And for the Niners, you're almost begging them to find a different way to win, whether it is getting a blocked kick or a massive kick return. But all those things tend to go not their way. It's getting and missing 3 kicks, getting a punt blocked, muffing a punt again today. They just do not have it in them this year to win differently thus far. And I walked away from this game, and it'll make more sense once we get into the defense. But this offense has struggled so much this year to score points continually. Where last year was like, if they held an opposing team to 23 points, you go. San Francisco scored 31, and they won by 7 or 8 points. So that's easy. They're going to win that game. This year, if they don't hold opposing teams to like 14 or 13, they may not win this game. They have struggled to put up points at an alarming rate for how good their personnel is. Like, it's so hard to pinpoint and say what is the exact problem when there's so many things going on. Sometimes it feels like they've unplugged the power. Like someone walked behind them and turned the switch off once they get into the red zone. Because today, they got into the red zone 3 times. 3 times. Their first trip to the red zone, they drove 87 yards, almost 87 yards downfield. Started on their own 13-yard line, drove all the way to the red zone. We're about to score 3rd and 9, and they stalled and they couldn't get in. They converted 3 third and longs, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 7, and 3rd and 9. Got them all on that drive. Marched almost 87 yards to score a touchdown, and they just stalled 9 yards shy. Led to a field goal. Second red zone trip. It's 1st and 10, just outside of the red zone. It's a 5-yard run by Christian McCaffrey. It's 2nd and 5. What do? Purdy throws over the middle to Juwan Jennings. It wasn't a bad decision, but he wasn't technically open. Sets up 3rd and 5. They complete it to CMC for a first down. Great. You're marching the football. You have a new first set of downs. You can score a touchdown here. You're in 4th down territory. Great. First down run by Isaac Guerendo, stuffed. I was like, why isn't that Jordan Mason? But okay, semantics here. Then Purdy gets sacked because he doesn't see the free rusher. Well, now you're back 6-7 yards. Great. Instead of being, 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 9, now you're 2nd and 15. Well, now you're doomed by the way you played. And they throw a screen pass to Deebo. That goes nowhere. Leads to a field goal. And they get into the red zone a 3rd time. Finally, Purdy takes matters into his own hands and gets that George Kittle touchdown pass. You listen to the broadcast today. Tom Brady is like screaming through his broadcaster's headset, being like, why are they not feeding Christian McCaffrey in the red zone? And when I was hosting Overtime today on 95.7 The Game with Kyle Madsen, one of the callers, I think his name was Austin, said that the Niners offensive line has not been punishing defenses this year. And for the most part, I'd agree. I think the Niners offensive line has been punishing defenses in between the 30 and the 20. But as soon as they get into the red zone, it's as if their strength is ripped away from them. For whatever reason, the red zone is covered in kryptonite and they don't know how to function. Last year, and even in previous years, the Niners, their running game was so ferocious that they were able to just dominate on drives where they've marched almost 87 yards, where it's grueling and it's long and it's 14 plays and it's 75 yards and you're almost about to score. Those are plays they cap off easily because they've put the other defense on their heels. You see those guys, tired. They've run the football 10 plus times. CMC has 45 yards on this drive alone, and they're gassed and they're exhausted. And this year, it feels like the defense gets a second wind in the red zone, and San Francisco's offense tightens up and is like, we don't know how to compute what Isaac Guerrero, go get a carry. And you're like, what? Why is Christian McCaffrey not playing? Where is Jordan Mason? Like, what? What are we doing? Like, no, don't give it to Isaac Guerrero. And look, I love Guerrero, but in that situation, doesn't feel like that's where I'd want to use him most. We talked about that maybe CMC's only a third down guy and a red zone guy for his first game. That was not the case. And it was almost like they deliberately went away from Christian McCaffrey in the red zone today to kind of outsmart the defenses, where it was like, that's not working. You have, which I get it, first game back, maybe there's rust and you want to kind of save, but he touched the ball 19 times. And I guarantee you, he would have touched it 10 times more, 5 times more, had they needed him, right? Like, there's no doubt in my mind, Kyle was willing to ride Chris McCaffrey in this game. I was like, yep, you're going to get 25 touches because this game is going haywire late. And yes, the Kittle touchdown play was amazing, but it was just like, oh, like, what is going on? Like, there's no way this is the case. And the red zone offense has been such a problem for San Francisco this year. And it just makes me question, like, what is the train of thought? What is the thought process? And what, like, when Kyle sees we're inside the 20, what goes through his head? Because sometimes it doesn't feel like it's logical. You're like, why are you throwing on 1st and 10, get you a free 3 or 4 yards, give you a 2 and 6 and maybe a 3rd and 4, make it more manageable for you. Like, now with CMC's back, I'm hoping that's the case. Maybe it's the first game back and, we'll ease him back in and see what's going on. But I really, really, really want to see, Shanahan be more aggressive for one, but also run the football 4 times and see what happens. Like, don't be afraid, but also that comes down to the offensive line doing their job. Papa J says here in the YouTube comments, with Guerrero having 1 carry for 0 yards, Mason 1 for 5 yards, Deebo 3 for 14 yards, and Brock 4 for 17 yards, with CMC's 13 carries for 39 yards. Does that show our weakness is our running game plan? I don't think so. I don't think the running game plan is the problem. I think a lot of it, at least in regards to the red zone, comes down to execution. Eric Saubert missed some blocks today that are pretty pivotal. Kyle Juszczyk wasn't that great today. It's a lot of blocks. We need a lot today. And which is funny because the Buccaneers don't have a great run defense. They have Vita Vea for sure, but they sold out today, which I get reverting to the pass, but with Brock being relatively shaky, you're like, it just felt like there wasn't a good mix. There wasn't a cohesiveness. It felt like they had a whole offseason of like, well, we're practicing this felt like week 1 all over again, which, okay, it's a bye week, but in previous bye weeks, they put up 40 points and they put up 36 points and they've crushed opponents. Whereas this game felt like a reintroduction into the Niners, but not a great new grand, here's a crazy offensive play. It was like, no, here's the same Niners you've seen for the past 8 weeks. We're kind of like, who are the Niners? I'll tell you who they are. They can't score in the red zone. They're terrible on special teams. Their offense goes stagnant at times. Like, they're not good, but they still had the potential to be excellent, which is a weird place to be in the NFL. Like, you can be amazing and awesome and great, but the way they played so far is just simply not been good, or at least good enough this year. Like, they don't belong in the conversation with the Lions and the Eagles and the Chiefs for sure. Like, honestly, I guarantee you this Niners team would probably lose to the Chargers. Like, and that's not where they should be. Like, the Chargers play a very different brand of football, but it's also ground and pound, Herbert on play action. Like, let's get back to that stuff. But that isn't the main takeaway from this game. It's just an overall issue with how the year has gone for San Francisco. I do want to get back to some positives, though, on the day, because Ricky Pearsall, first career touchdown pass and catch, 46-yard receiving touchdown. It was awesome. I thought he was clutch today for San Francisco. 4 catches, 73 total yards. That amazing 46-yard touchdown catch and run. A lot of yak involved in there. That 4.3 speed finally coming up to play on that last drive of the game for the Niners, where they had it down. They had 41 seconds, right, to score a touchdown or get a field goal to win the game. He had like 3 catches on that drive. He was awesome. Came up clutch for them. And he's going to have to be a major part of the offense going forward, where no Ayuk, you got to have someone that can separate. And I'm hoping Pearsall, the more he plays, you'll see the ascension up the list in regards to him. But he was awesome today. I want to see him featured more. He had that first catch early, the big touchdown catch. I believe he was targeted 6 times. 4 targets in the first half, just 2 in the second half, and both those came on the last drive of the game. Feature Ricky Pearsall more. He can offer you more than simply 4 catches on 6 targets. Deebo Samuel in this game, 8 touches, 76 yards. Borderline non-factor for most of it, which I know he's been injured and he's dealing with, I think it's the rib injury. And he was on and off the field today a lot, but I don't know. Like, I'm starting to kind of get a little, not annoyed, but it's like, I don't walk into games being like, watch out for Deebo. I'm like, yeah, there's also Deebo Samuel. And Deebo can be great. Like, it's no hate towards him at all. He's a great player. When he's on, he's on. But all the hype he had coming into the year, being in the best shape ever, and all these things, it doesn't exist anymore. Like, when I see Deebo Samuel, my thought is 4 targets, 3 catches, and 4 carries for like 35 yards. Maybe he has one big play to separate him, which happened today. Like, Deebo's not a continual impactful player for them this year, which is concerning because they redid that contract. I don't think he's going anywhere. Now, they can redo it again for sure, but honestly, Ricky Pearsall has been a bigger game changer for San Francisco, at least in this game, than Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel, and I don't want to do this because it's unfair, but you take away Deebo's 32-yard catch, he had 7 touches for 44 yards. That's what he's been almost every single game, which you can win like that for sure, but when that's your number 1 receiver, it's not going to cut it. And I'm hoping it changes, but I've just not been impressed with him outside of like 1 play a game. Which, if that 1 play is game-changing, okay, great. But like, I'd rather have more consistency than 1 massive play from him. Because he's an amazing player when he's fully healthy. And maybe that's the issue. But right now, like, Juwan Jennings has been much, much better than Deebo Samuel this year. Juwan Jennings today was phenomenal. 7 catches, 93 yards. He even arguably saved the game for San Francisco on multiple occasions. Brock Purdy fumbles the football. Jennings is like, oh, crap. I got it. I'm not going to be Cam Newton. I'll dive on it. I promise you. Gets the fumble recovery, preserves that drive, which then they don't score any points because Pearsall misses a field goal, but didn't give the Bucs the ball back that early, right? Amazing play from him, but also even late in the game. Last drive of the game, stays in bounds to gain more yards, setting up an easier field goal for Jake Moody to win that game. Juwan Jennings is an impactful player. This team's number one receiver this year. Been incredible. He's a bargain still after getting paid. You can argue, even if Brandon Ayuk was healthy, and let's say he was playing up to his par of last year, Juwan Jennings would still be this team's number 2 receiver. Like, he's outplaying a seemingly fully healthy, for the most part, Deebo Samuel. He's outplaying Pearsall for sure. He was outplaying Ayuk when he was healthy. And, like, he has been the most impactful receiver on this team almost every single game. And he's also injured with the hip injury. So it's like, Juwan is awesome. He was going up time and time again on third downs towards the sideline. Like, Juwan arguably has been one of the MVPs of this team. Like, had it not been for George Kittle and Jordan Mason, Juwan Jennings is arguably this team's best offensive player, not named Brock Purdy. Like, he has been that good this year. So many third down conversions today. He's high pointing balls. He's putting his body continually in danger over the middle and on sidelines, and is making plays. Like, we are no longer talking about third and Juwan or only a third down merchant. We're talking about a bona fide, like, number 2 receiver in the NFL at this moment, playing as this team's number 1 receiver. Juwan is so impressive. The mentality's great. He's awesome. Like, you really just cannot find something you don't like about Juwan Jennings' game. He's a great run blocker. He's a team player. He loves playing football. He's everything you want in a player. That is Juwan Jennings. He's like the epitome of a 49er. Like, Shanahan got a steal in the 7th round with him out of Tennessee, and the extension he has is still, even with the raise, a massive steal and one of the best bargains in the entire NFL. He's been awesome this year for them. George Kittle, again, 3 catches, 57 yards, 1 touchdown. That little tip drill early, I was like, oh, he got it. It was like, oh, I'm so scared. But it was awesome. The play action little dump off they had, I think they had the big return by Cowling for like 30 yards. The very next play is like the little play action fake dump off to Kittle, where he catches it, breaks 1 tackle towards the left sideline, then cuts upfield and like gets to like the 47-yard line on the Bucs side. Kittle is just the best tight end in the entire league. Great run blocker. He's just incredible. Like, we all talked about, well, we haven't, but a lot of people have said, what is George Kittle's future and should they trade him? And that's a bunch of nonsense, bunch of BS. George Kittle's here to stay. He is this franchise's best tight end of all time, and he's honestly not missing a beat. Like, that 2020 season has left a lot of people kind of soured as to who he actually is as a player. He had 1,000 yards last year. He's on his pace for another 1,000-yard season this year. Like, he is playing at an all-pro level again. He's 31 years old, looking like he's 24 years old. Like, George Kittle looks like what you'd expect from a top tier in his prime tight end, and he looks incredible. He's blocking great still, catching the football, toe tapping in the back of the end zone. Like, San Francisco, for being 5-4, for having their streaks of inconsistencies and making games so tight where you're like, are they going to win or lose this game? It's the reason why you have faith in them being able to take that next step and get back to who they were last year. One is George Kittle. Like, yes, you have Brock Purdy for sure, but George Kittle is a major factor into this offense clicking and finding things that works to kind of pull them out of the rut they've been in. Juwan Jennings too, but George Kittle is an emotional leader. He's a captain for a reason, and he is, when like in like 2021 and even last year at times, when this offense got kind of stagnant, who they look for to make big plays? It was Deebo Samuel. Now it's George Kittle. But when the offense needs that pick-me-up, who do they look for? Who does Brock Purdy look for? Who is Shanahan designing plays for? It's George Kittle. There has been a shift towards leaning on Kittle much more, and I do not want that to change. He's awesome. As Laurie Matthews says here, he is the perfect leader and a motivator of the offense. You're right. You're right. That's exactly what he is. George Kittle is, like Juwan Jennings is, the perfect player mentality-wise, what he can do offensively for you. physical, like all those things, this mentality of I love playing football. George Kittle loves playing football, and he just loves playing in this offense. And when he's called upon, he does never not answer. He's always like, hello, I'm here. And he always answers. And you're like, yes, like, thank God we have him. Imagine if it was Cam Latu and you're like, what the heck? Like, no, butter hands out there. Like, I don't mean take shots, but my goodness, like this tight end room has been anchored by George Kittle for so long, but he continues to not even like change his game. He's the exact guy he was when he came out of college for the most part, but he continues to be so consistent and so good, and they're relying on him more and more and more. And I love that, and I do not want it to change. And today he was a massive factor, massive touchdown today, huge 34-yard catch in that second half to spark the offense. Just really great stuff from this team's veteran stars like George Kittle and Juwan Jennings. Pearsall's coming along really well. His story is so great. But I do want to get to the offensive line for a second, because a lot of people, besides the red zone stuff, which you already kind of hinted on here, I thought the offensive line was good today. They were good in pass protection. The only like major like ick, you're like, oh, like Brendel played relatively well. McKivitz was relatively good today. Like I didn't see any major weaknesses from them. Again, the big sack was Grendo chipping a free rusher, and Trent was busy blocking somebody and couldn't get over fast enough. I don't blame anybody. Like that's kind of a non-attributed sack to Brock Purdy. So I thought overall, like the offensive line's playing better this year in pass protection. There wasn't one of those like, oh my God, Jake Brendel plays, or oh my God, Colt McKivitz plays today. Overall, the offensive line gave Purdy a lot of time to throw, even with the blitzes. And even then, Brock Purdy picked up those blitzes good today at a really good rate today. But which is so funny, because I talked about how the offense worries me, where would I trust them to consistently score 20 points a game? I don't think you can. I know we aren't in the Christmas season just yet. We're almost there. We're not there yet, but like, shout out Polar Express, like seeing is believing. And so far this year, I haven't seen this offense being able to average over 24 points a game. Like, I just don't know what to think and make of them. But thank God for this defense. This defense, which I still get comments, whether it's on the Instagram right here on the screen for you, or on the Twitter over here for you, people are still like, well, the defense has to be better. The defense wasn't good today. Did we watch the same game? The box score, unlike Brock Purdy's stat line, what the offense did, the box score indicates the defense was phenomenal, even better than the offense was today, and arguably has been the better unit all year long. The defense the defense literally saved the game today for San Francisco. And they have been doing it all year long. They've had their issues. They've had their lapses. Almost had one of those today on that final drive. But overall, I want to walk you through, for all the people that said, and maybe it wasn't you, but maybe it was your friend, maybe it was your dad who was a little too tipsy today, being like, oh, damn it, that Niners defense. Ah! Tell them to calm down, go outside and touch some grass. The defense, I want to read off to you what they did today. Okay? Stick with me. It's a lot. But the Niners were playing the second rated third down offense in the entire NFL today. That's right. And I get no Mike Evans and no Chris Godwin, but the second best third down offense in the league this year, in the Buccaneers, held them to 35% on third downs. That's incredible. They held the Buccaneers to 215 total offensive yards. The Buccaneers averaged under 4 yards per play. Baker Mayfield, who was on a heater, who was just like reliant in this game on quick passes and screen passes, and nothing was vertical downfield. Like, it was all in the numbers. It was all towards the line of scrimmage. It was all checkdowns and comebackers and short crossers. Nothing was getting downfield deep at all. Baker Mayfield, who walked in having arguably one of the best seasons of any quarterback in the NFL, 116 yards total through the air, just one touchdown, a 41.4 QBR, and was sacked twice. If that's not enough for you, I want to read every single drive of this game for the Buccaneers. And we'll talk about what happened in the outlying drives. First drive of the game, Buccaneers go 6 plays, 27 yards, they punt. Their next drive, they go 4 plays, 16 yards, they punt. Their third drive, they go 13 plays, 58 yards, and a field goal. At this point, they've run 23 plays, and they barely eclipsed 100 yards, only 3 points. That's good. The next drive for Tampa Bay, 3 plays, 5 yards, punt. The next play, or the next drive, their first drive out of halftime, where you're like, uh-oh, they might make a run here. They're getting kind of hot. They're fueling themselves. 3 plays, 6 yards, and a punt. The defense does their job. Cowling and Luter muff that punt. Then the Buccaneers offense gets going. 4 plays, 21 yards, touchdown. If you take away that muffed punt, and even if San Francisco doesn't score on the next drive, right? Take away the muffed punt. The odds the Buccaneers score 2 touchdowns in this game goes down drastically. They punted on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of their drives today. 7 of their 11 drives they punted. And they scored 2 field goals and 2 touchdowns. It was an awesome day of the defense. The next drive, they go 10 plays, 70 yards, touchdown. That's the one drive where you're like, crap, they put something together. That's the one drive. And in that one drive, they had 53 of their 110 rushing yards. It was the only outlier drive. You're like, oh crap. One drive was all they really had. One long, sustainable drive where they actually earned their keep and got that touchdown. One drive. Because in the very next drive they had 3 plays, 4 yards, and a punt. The next drive, 3 plays, negative 13 yards, and a punt. The Niners defense was incredible. And even on the last drive of the game for the Buccaneers, where you're like, oh my God, the Niners are going to blow this game. I've seen this too many times. What are we going to do? We're going to be 4-5, and we're not going to go to the playoffs, and you're contemplating every scenario in your head. The Buccaneers, 11 plays, 58 yards, 39 of those yards were on penalties. Do some quick math here. It's like 12 yards. 12 yards? Not a lot of yards. The Niners defense was awesome. Yes, penalties were a major factor in that last drive. A holding on Rock Ya-Sin, a face mask on Fred Warner, roughing the passer on Malik Collins, then illegal use of the hands of Anderson. Even when the defense was shooting themselves in the foot, guess what? They then answered. They held the Buccaneers to a goal line stand and a field goal. It allowed San Francisco's offense to have 41 seconds left to win this game. The Niners defense was phenomenal in this game. They were playing zone coverage early. They said, nope, we're going away from that. These Buccaneers receivers can't separate. They're not good. It was Lenore and then Green and man coverage in that second half, and Yaden and Rock Ya-Sin out there. You were locking down dudes. This Niners defense, we talked about swarming. They were swarming so much. I do not want to hear this defense was not good. It's a load of BS. If your friends think that, if you think that, all due respect to you, if your dad thinks that, if your mom thinks that, if the people you listen to about the Niners tell you, well, this defense wasn't that good, they are lying to you. This defense was incredible. Yes, the pass rush could have been better. Yes, Nick Bosa was doing jack squat for about 3.5 quarters of this game. All that can be true, and yet that secondary was locking down everybody. And outside of one drive, Take out that one drive, which you can't do realistically, but make believe here in a second. Take out a 10-play, 70-yard touchdown drive. They allowed 2 field goals and a touchdown. Like, you even take away the 1 touchdown off the muff punt. This Niners defense, if you want to get specific here, talk about the things the Buccaneers actually earned, they essentially earned themselves 13 points today. 13 points. If the special teams unit does their job, this game is 29-13. And we're having a whole different conversation. That is how different this game could have been. Yes, San Francisco could have got touchdowns in the red zone, sure. Yes, they have to get better at scoring touchdowns. This game could have been 34-13. There are so many things to get better at, but I do not want to hear this defense was not good. So many fans on Twitter and people were talking about, well, they're not good. Yes, they are. They're really good. There wasn't takeaways today, sure. I get that. You want to get takeaways. But this defense limited almost everything the Buccaneers could do. Everything. And outside of one drive where they got 53 rushing yards, they were doing nothing all day. You know how many 3 and outs they had today? The Buccaneers did? Let's count here. 1, 2, they had 4 3 and outs today. They had 2 drives that were only 4 plays, and they had 1 drive that was 6 plays. That is lockdown, shut down, like you're not going anywhere style of defense. That's lock them away. Throw away the key style of defense for the San Francisco 49ers today. They were awesome. To Calachipto's point here, special teams, penalties, and red zone struggles, yes. We already talked about red zone struggles. It plagues this team for sure. Penalties on that last drive, yes. 39 free yards in a 58-yard drive can't happen. They were going to give this game away. And it was going to make a darn near perfect performance go out the window and what would have been a disastrous loss in Tampa Bay. Thankfully, they stood their ground. They made some plays. Lenore was fantastic. Evan Anderson made a play at the end of the game. They were awesome at that goal line stand. That was Niners defense. Like, honestly, I am not worried about this defense. Yes, there's going to be a few games here or there, but man, oh man. I believe this defense can hold most teams under 24 points. I truly believe that. They have played good enough against the Cardinals, who are first place in the NFC West, who just beat the wings off the Jets today, beat the landing gear off them fools. Gonna make A-Rod go to a darkness retreat again. But man, like I don't want to hear they weren't good. This defense has played too good this year to get that credit. But to your point, Calachipto, special teams. Special teams is a disaster. And I do not know, like, I know that Jake Moody will get a lot of hate about this, and a lot of it doesn't make sense. Let me explain. Because, so I've said in previous shows that they fired Steve Wilkes after having a top 10 defense last year, who had its struggles, but they wouldn't fire Brian Schneider, who's had years of issues on this team with this same unit, with different personnel, and they poured more money into it in previous years than others. They fire Steve Wilkes, they won't fire Brian Schneider. They'll trade Trey Lance, which was the right decision, mind you. They'll move off with the guy they traded away 3 first-round draft picks for and a 3rd-round pick, only to get a 4th-round pick back because they believe in Mr. Irrelevant. They will admit we made a mistake and move off of that guy. Then they'll draft Jake Moody in the 3rd round, and after a year and a half of inconsistencies, won't say, hey, maybe Andrews Carlson's the answer. And I'm not saying exactly Andrews Carlson's the answer, but maybe there's a solution elsewhere to help. And I could give 2 you-know-whats about, well, Jake Moody was injured last week and he had the ankle injury. If he's still hurt, don't activate him. If you don't feel comfortable with him going out there, don't activate him. If he needs more practice, guess what? Don't activate him. There was no need to activate Jake Moody this week. There's no need. No need if he wasn't ready. If you weren't 100% certain he was going to go out there and nail 50-yard field goals, and if the ankle was a concern, and I don't think it was, but if it was, don't play him. The Niners were doing literally just fine without him. The kicking position, despite it not being a third-round pick, was relatively not a weak point for this team. And you get Moody back, and you're like, oh, CMC's back. Great. Juwan Jennings, you're back. Awesome. Gross Matos, maybe? Okay, no. Feliciano, okay, you're almost back. Jake Moody. Oh, yeah, Jake's back. Oh, crap. Can he stay on injured reserve for like a couple more weeks? I don't know. Okay, cool. All right, go out there and miss 3 field goals. There's no excuse. You're a third-round pick, the third highest drafted kicker since 2004. I don't care if you have one leg or one arm. If you're out there, you are paid and expected to execute. That's how this works. And again, he was hurt last week. Yeah, so was Christian McCaffrey. And had CMC fumbled 3 times, he'd be getting crucified this week. You can't come back and fumble 3 times. He was the reigning offensive player of the year. If Brock Purdy threw 3 picks, we'd be like, wow, Brock looked terrible. There'd be people questioning his future as the franchise quarterback of this team. Yet we don't want to dive in and overly criticize Jake Moody, who has missed field goals in playoff games, who had a field goal blocked in the Super Bowl, who, even when it's not even clutch time, is missing kicks in the preseason. In Week 18 against the Rams, when the backups are playing, he can't make field goals then? The only thing Jake Moody has ever done worth a damn in San Francisco was in the pre-draft process when he had the freaking perfect workout. And look, Jake Moody's a great guy. I have no qualms or problems with him personally. But if you're not doing your job, shouldn't have that job. And I'm sorry. Yeah, it's one game. Could Moody come out and hit 4 kicks next week and we're all like, whoa, look at Jake. Yeah, that can happen. It's happened before. Jake missed kicks against the Browns and the Vikings, and you're like, oh my God, that's the reason they lost 2 of those 3 games, amongst many others, but that was a major reason. Had you made those kicks, well, but then you have Kyle Shanahan in the postgame press conference like, well, you're only as good as your last kick. Kyle, you wouldn't have needed the last kick had you made the other 3. In what world is that the response? But it's the same guy that will go, okay, well, we had that blocked field goal against the Cardinals and got us a touchdown, so that erases everything wrong Brian Schneider's special teams unit has done this year. No. One good deed doesn't erase 30,000 missteps of terrible play. Darrell Luter getting the ball hit off him on a freaking punt, does that sound familiar? It happened, 9 months ago. It's not just one kick. It's not just one punt. It's not just one field goal. Yes, there are so many other things going on. And yes, Lori, I see your comment that the Texans lost tonight because Kaimi Fairbairn missed that kick, shanked that sucker far left. I get that. But the Texans also threw 2 interceptions tonight in that second half. Couldn't score. And Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions and they couldn't get the job done. The difference is this. When your offense isn't executing, when they're getting to the red zone and not scoring, when your offense just really can't thread that needle just yet, and they're trying to refine themselves and refine their form, when your defense is playing good enough and really good in this game, but they're holding opponents to 17 points outside of one final drive, which is really good this day and age in the NFL, you need that kicker to get the field goals, to make the extra points. Look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin has yet to have a losing season in Pittsburgh. In the last 8 seasons, you know why? Because they're unafraid to win games 13-10, 17-14, 20-17, 23-20. You want to know why? They have arguably the best kicker in the entire NFL, not named Harrison Butker. Chris Boswell this year has, and even last year and years before, they are unafraid to send that sucker out there 6 times a game, knowing he'll get you 18 points himself. They can win games almost solely on great defense and a field goal kicker. I get it. This offense should be better, and it should be better. It needs to be better if they want to win a Super Bowl. There's no excuse as to why it's not better. The offense is stuck in the mud, has to find their next gear to get where they want to be. Whether it's Purdy or CMC or simply just third down and red zone execution. Yes, that can take the forefront. And Kyle Shanahan's response is always this: well, if I can fix the offense, I never have to worry about field goal kickers. That's fine. That's fine. I totally understand that train of thought. If you score 6, you ain't got to worry about 3. You will take scoring 6 and giving the opposition 3 points every single time. The problem is you can't even score 6, and now because your kicker sucks, you can't even score 3. This game should have been 29-17 on that last drive, where everyone's like, oh, well, whatever, it'll be a little closer. If they score, it's not a big deal. And it's, they have to get an onside kick. And, no one's sitting back like, oh, what's going to happen? Oh, back here sweating, hit the panic button. That's not happening. Want to know why? Even Kyle Shanahan is, when Moody missed that second kick, Kyle was screaming into his playbook, because you cannot tell me he was confident in Jake in that last kick. When your kicker misses 3 kicks, my goodness. He wouldn't even march out Mitch Wishnowsky on the 15-yard line when Moody got hurt. Matthew Wright was out there pooching kicks from 25 yards out with ease. Carlson was hitting 50-plus yarders with ease. And those guys aren't great. They're on the street for a reason. But when you invest a third-round pick into a player and they're not playing well, you cut Cam Latu, you traded Trey Lance, you let Tariq Castro-Fields walk out via waivers as a 6th-round pick his rookie season. They didn't get chances. They didn't execute. They didn't do their job. But Jake Moody gets shot after shot after shot. When you're finding guys, tonight, the kicker for the Lions was a bricklayer a year ago, and he booted a 58-yard field goal to tie the game for Detroit, and ultimately hit one later to win the game for Detroit. It's kicking, and it's all over the place. You never know who's going to be good and bad, and I get the risk of saying, you know what? Even if drives stall on the 38-yard line, my guy can go out there and get me 3 points. I get that thought. I'm all for it. I get the aggression in going out and getting a kicker. But you got the wrong guy. And I get he's young, Lori. I really do. I really, really, really do. But if Jake Moody wasn't a 3rd-round pick, like Joseph says here, would he even be on the team? If you weren't paying him a higher contract for most kickers, would he even be out there? No, he wouldn't be. This team has never feared giving up on players when they play poorly. Shanahan put Ayuk in the doghouse. He wasn't even letting Grendo get snaps until Mason got hurt. The fact that he played Dominic Pooney was like, whoa, it's a brand new Kyle Shanahan this year. But he watched Carlson hit kicks from 50-plus yards with relative ease. Now, Carlson isn't a great kicker. I'm not saying he's the answer. But Moody has continually cost this team games. In this one, he was almost the sole reason they lost. Now, yes, had the offense scored points and it wasn't field goals and it was touchdowns instead, yes, I get it. That's great. when you're a kicker and you have one job. Like, we all want to talk about Deebo Samuel out there with grabbing Taybor Pepper by the neck and whatnot, and I think that was pretty bush league of him, and I wouldn't have done that. It was a little too far for me, but I get it. I get the frustration of like, Jesus, dude, we got you to the 45-yard line, and you can't make that? I'm banged up. I have a broken rib, and I have a bruised rib, and I have a messed up wrist, and I got a messed up leg, and I'm out here fighting and grinding while you sit on the bench soaking wet 145 pounds, and all you got to do is kick. I'm giving this team everything I have for 80-plus snaps, 60-plus snaps a game. And you get like 7 chances a game, and you miss 3 of the 4. And in this one, you basically didn't do a darn thing. Oh, you hit the game winner. It's all that matters. No, it's not. You could have avoided the whole disaster. The whole thing. It's almost like, when you're a kid and you make a mess, say you're 5 or 6 years old and you got that big jug of milk with a big jug of juice and you want to pour it yourself. You're like, I'm a big kid now. And you pour it and it makes a mess and it goes everywhere. I get it. You want to prove you can do it. You want to prove you're a big boy or girl. You could have avoided the whole mess, even though you cleaned it up and nobody knew. And you wasted all the paper towels in the world to fix it and make sure mom and dad didn't find out. You know what could have avoided the whole thing? Mom, Dad, I want some juice. Can you help me? It's the same thing for Jake Moody in a very weird way. Same thing. It's like you can avoid this mess that you're creating. The lack of execution is haunting this team on special teams. If you don't muff the punt, the Buccaneers have 13 points in this game, and Jake Moody's kicks don't even matter at that point. It's 17-13. Game's over. Who cares? If Jake Moody hits one extra field goal, we don't even need the extra game winner. The fact is, they're going to trot him out there against the Seahawks next week, and we're all going to sit there when this offense stalls on 3rd and 8 in the red zone like, oh my God, this is not a guaranteed bucket. This ain't a free throw anymore. This is a hold your breath. We may get no points here. That is a massive problem. That cannot be what happens this season. It is doomed and damned this team multiple times already. And we're still like, well, next week could be better. And you're like, yeah, but it can also be 10 times worse because nothing is changing. That is the definition of insanity. I don't care about Jake Moody's perfect workout when he was at Michigan in the NFL drafting process. I don't care. Trey Lance had a good workout in his draft process. I don't care. He wasn't good here. Jake has not been good here. I want good kickers. I want a great quarterback. I want good running backs. And they have a good quarterback and a great running back. And they have good receivers. And they have an improved offensive line. And the defense is doing their job. Yet, you got that big meme they have of the 3 dragon heads from Godzilla. And they're all like fierce and strong. Here's the offense. Here's the defense. And you got the one that has the kooky eyes. And he's like, I'm special teams. That's every single freaking game for this team. Schneider should not be here. They had a bye week to make a change, and they were like, nope, we're good. We held that Dallas Cowboys #1 special teams returner to like 55 total yards. We fixed our problems. And it's like, no, you didn't. No, you got lucky. The only, you know what's going to happen, right? Is that you would have thought losing in the Super Bowl to a blocked field goal and a muffed punt would have made Kyle say, that's not good. I'll make a change. Shanahan needs to stop being overly confident in himself and in the offense. And I get that mindset, but the overconfidence in himself, it might be some pride too of like, well, once I fix the offense, who cares? The issue is you've had 10 weeks and the offense isn't fixed. Maybe it's time to say, you know what? I may eventually fix this offense. We may eventually get going, But in the meantime, I'm going to help myself out and say, you know what? When we aren't hitting on all strides, maybe I'll get a kicker in here that can, make a 35-yarder, make a 50-yarder, make a 46-yarder. The Cowboys can do it. The Lions can do it. The Chiefs can do it. All those teams, the Cowboys are exempt from this, but the Lions and Chiefs, the two top heads in the conference, which is where you're supposed to be, right? That's the expectation. You know what they can do? Make kicks. Win games via kicking field goals and PATs. The Niners cannot. And if you can't get in the end zone, you have to be able to score field goals. The Steelers do it. The Lions do it. The Chiefs do it. All good teams. Even the Texans. And I know he missed a field goal tonight. Fairbairn has the most 50-yard makes since 2020, whatever it is. He's been relatively clutch the last 4 seasons. They can bank on him making that kick 9 times out of 10. Justin Tucker and the Ravens. Again, he hasn't been himself this year, but my goodness, what is he known for? Game-winning 63-yard field goals. Move that sucker 13 yards in. Give me a 50-yarder on a more consistent basis. Good teams and great teams are separated by the small things. Making field goals, PATs, not muffing punts. That's what changes the outcomes week to week. It's cost you the Vikings game. It cost you the Rams game. It cost you the Cardinals game. It darn near almost cost you the Seahawks game. It almost cost you this game. And really, it should have cost you this game. This is the worst this unit has looked on kicks all year long. I was just waiting for a massive return by the Buccaneers. Thankfully, it didn't happen. But my goodness, how worse does it have to get before it gets better? Because you were on the brink. You were already the 31st ranked special teams unit in football. Do you have to go to 32? And if that's the case, to get there, you have to allow 4 more return touchdowns this year. And honestly, I wouldn't put them past them. That's how bad they've been. It is frustrating. So freaking frustrating to watch this team have offensive struggles and defensive struggles. And you're hoping that, okay, well, at least we can do the easy things right and make field goals. Cover punts, not muff punts. When you call a fair catch, catch the football. Move out of the way if you see your own guy barreling down at you while he's getting blocked. I get it. Some of these guys are young, and maybe your personnel isn't what you want it to be. But my goodness. I don't want to rant for 35 minutes, but it is becoming to a point where I get disgusted watching this team on kicks and punts every single week because I know what's going to happen. This team can be up 21-0 and within 3 or 4 plays be down 23-21 because special teams continually gives the opposition the ball either on the opponent's team's red zone at the goal line or misses field goals to not extend leads, keeping the opponent in the game longer and longer and longer. And the more times you give an NFL team a chance and an offense a chance to score, guess what? They're going to score. And if you're going to do this again against the Cardinals and against the Rams and against the Packers and against the Bills and against the Dolphins who suck but Tua Tagovailoa's back and you never know how they're going to play, you are going to get your ass kicked against those teams. And you're going to walk away being under 500 come week 17. If you don't figure this out, this team is too good to be this bad. And I still believe they can be a great team. I still believe they can beat anybody on any given Sunday if they're playing their best football. But you know what goes into playing your best football? Offensive execution in the red zone and on third downs, defensive execution against the run, and making your field goals when you get on the opponent's 20-yard line. The Niners are so much better than this. I know they are. I know they can be. But my goodness, it is painful and painful and painful to watch this team shoot themselves in the foot but also not just shoot themselves in the foot. It's like they saw off their legs at the hip and they can't even walk because they're that incompetent at times. And it's like, oh my goodness, guys, you have all pros everywhere. You have the reigning offensive player of the year, a near MVP, an all pro tight end, an all pro receiver, a first-round wide receiver. You have an amazing second-round rookie, Bernardo Green, who saved a touchdown on a 1st and 10 where Baker Mayfield pulled a 360 spin and you got beat, but he made it up and got the PBU to save this team the game in the third quarter. You got safeties playing good football. You have maybe the defensive player of the year in Fred Warner. And Nick Bosa, for not having a great game, got a major sack in this one. Like, my goodness. And Robbie, I hate this, but you missed all the good stuff early in the show. We talked about Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and Ricky Pearsall being awesome, his first touchdown, and George Kittle and the offensive line and how great the defense was. You just happened to miss all the great stuff. So please. But look, it's almost Veterans Day tomorrow. My wife has the day off. I got to get back to her, but I will say this. Thank you all for watching and listening. Joseph, Papa J, Robbie439, the Smitty, Lori Matthews, so many more, Cowachipto in here, so many more of you in here as well. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you kindly could, follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. And if you want to watch your Niners play in person and you want to get that hard attack in person at Levi Stadium or on the road this year, go to SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase by using promo code 49ersaccess. 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And if you're waiting to get the latest news on your favorite teams, whether it's the NBA, the Warriors beat OKC tonight. I know Dub Nation's out there loud and proud, doing great things, having a good time. If you're a Niner fan, if you're a Giants fan, waiting for them to sign some key free agents, which maybe they won't, maybe they will, who knows? Go to sportsspyder.com. They categorize and they put everything in one place for you, whether it's MLB, NBA, NFL, one place. It's podcasts, articles, latest news, tweets, everything you want from your favorite teams on one place just for you. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that review. Thank you all once again in the comment section down below. Tell me your takeaways from this game. Are you as frustrated as me when it comes to special teams? What do you think this team will do the second half of the season? Do you still believe in that second half push? Do you believe in this team more or less after their 23-20 win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers today in Week 10 of the NFL season? Right now they're in second place in the NFC West. Fingers crossed the Rams lose tomorrow night. That way they can stay there and hopefully continue their trek upwards to first place once again. But my name is Sterling Bennett. Like, share, subscribe, leave that review. Give us 5 stars on Apple and Spotify. Helps a lot with ratings and whatnot. But until next time, until we preview Niners Seahawks Levi Stadium next Sunday, I want you all to stay faithful. Have a great time. Happy Veterans Day. And as always, stay faithful.